Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark.
And I'm Randy.
Today we're taking a look at Operation Candy Bomber.
Operation Candy Bomber is brought to you by Cedar Fort. It plays 1 to 4 players, that's right, there is a solo mode, supports players ages 8 and up, and each game takes about 45 minutes to an hour to play.
Great. Well, why Candy Bomber? Well, let's take a closer look why. Operation Candy Bomber is based on the real-life historical events of the Berlin Airlift. In 1948, following World War II, Germany was left divided between the Allies who controlled the West and the Soviets who controlled the East. Berlin, the capital of Germany, was also divided in the same manner, leaving the Allied-controlled West Berlin in the middle of Soviet territory. The Soviets retaliated by cutting off all land transportation into the city, leaving West Berlin stranded. The only way to save the people of West Berlin was by air. What followed was the first time in history that a whole city was fed entirely by what planes could carry. One pilot, Lieutenant Gail Halverson, was flying food to Berlin when he noticed hungry children awaiting him behind the city's barbed wire fences. He wanted to do more than feed the people. On each of his trips, Lieutenant Halverson began dropping candy in addition to the normal food rations. He became known as the Candy Bomber, and other pilots soon followed suit. In Candy Bomber, all players must work together to keep West Berlin from falling into starvation while completing the quests that have been set out. This is a cooperative game, meaning that all players either win or lose the game together. Players will fly in and out of airports, picking up and dropping off rations and candy. In addition to transporting food, players will complete a given number of quests. Every time the people of Berlin need to eat but don't have adequate rations, they slowly starve by moving the hunger meter down 1 increment. If the hunger meter reaches the bottom of the track before you are able to finish all the quests, all the players lose the game. Players can also lose the game by running out of time when the storm meter gets grounded at the bottom of the track. This game is won by completing a designated number of quests before either the storm meter or the hunger meter reaches 0. Once you complete 1 quest card, immediately flip over the next one. However, you cannot work on multiple quest cards at the same time.
To set up Candy Bomber, first determine the level of difficulty on which you wish to play. Then take the hunger token and put it on the appropriate spot on the hunger meter. Next, take the postcard token and put it on the leftmost spot of the postcard meter. Then take the storm token and put it on the topmost spot of the storm meter. Next, build the ration deck. You do this by taking the ration cards, adding 2 storm increase cards, and then the appropriate number of day of rest cards. Shuffle these and put them on the board. Then take the postcard cards, shuffle them, and create a deck in the appropriate spot on the board. Then take all the rations, shown by these white cubes, candy, shown by the orange cubes, and volunteers, shown by these meeples, and put them in a space near the board. Then place all the airport tokens, quest tokens, upgrade tokens, and distribution center tokens near the board. Shuffle the player boards and randomly deal 1 to each of the players. Shuffle the quest deck and deal the appropriate number of quests onto the board. If you're playing on easy level, that's 6. For normal level, that's 7. And for hard, that's 8 cards. The first quest card should then be turned face up. Typically, the quest token is also placed on the board as part of this. Then give each player 1 operations manual card, 4 rations, and 2 candy. Lastly, place an airport token on Tempelhof. Players will start the game with their pieces on this airport. Then place 1 ration on every location on the board except for West Germany.
Now, the player who most recently flew will be the first player. Now, if there's no one at the table who has flown recently, then you default to picking whoever's birthday is next. Now, each player on their turn, the first thing you will do is grab a ration card and do what it says. There are 4 different types of ration cards.
The first type of ration card is the one that you will encounter most frequently, and that is the single ration card. This indicates that in a particular area on the map, there's a demand for food. If there is a ration in that area, you'll remove this cube to indicate that the ration has been consumed, and you will add a volunteer meeple to that area to indicate that volunteers showed up to help distribute the food. If there was no ration in that area, then you'll have to move the hunger token down 1 on the hunger meter to indicate that starvation is increasing in that area. If there happened to be a candy in that area, whether or not there was a ration in that area, you will consume the candy, remove the cube from the board, and move the postcard token up 1 space on the postcard meter. Unfortunately, consuming candy does not prevent starvation, but it does. Yeah, sadly it doesn't. So all you kids out there, remember that.
That's right.
Candy is no substitute for food. But in any case, it does give you the advantage of moving the postcard token up 1 space on that track and getting you a little bit closer to getting a postcard benefit. Now, on the cards, you not only see the name of the area at the top of the card, but you also see this color coding. In many cases, these areas will have names that are unfamiliar to those of us not familiar with Germany.
Right.
And so the color coding will help us determine which region they are in. The blue areas were controlled by France at that time. The orange areas were controlled by Great Britain. And the area color-coded green was controlled by the United States.
Next up, we have group rations. Now, these cards are particularly bad because they force you to remove 1 ration from each area in a zone. And as Randy said, there's 3 different types of zones. You have the blue, you have the green, and you have the brown. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the zone that is called out on your card. You know, if it's the French zone, then you have to remove 1 ration from each space. And where you can't remove a ration, this is where it gets bad. So for every place that doesn't have a ration, the hunger meter drops by 1.
Right.
And potentially, if you haven't taken care of this zone well, you're going to bottom out and lose the game right there.
Yeah, because, for example, in the French zone, there are only 2 areas. And so worst case scenario, if none of those had rations, then your hunger meter would drop by 2.
Yeah.
But the United States region or zone has 6.
Yeah.
So that would,
Yikes.
yeah, if you haven't been taking care of any of those areas, then you're in deep trouble.
You definitely have to keep up on these rations.
Right. The third type of ration card is the one you're going to be looking forward to, and that is a day of rest card.
It's the one I most look forward to.
We all do. Yeah.
Right.
When you draw this, it means that no rations are consumed in any of the areas.
Right.
It's a day of rest, and it's a little bit different. On my day of rest, I tend to eat a little
more?
bit too much. Yeah. But in this case, there are no rations consumed in any of the locations, and you can prepare for worst cards coming up next.
Exactly.
And speaking of worst cards,
Yes.
the 4th type of ration card is one you'll definitely not be looking forward to, and that is the Storm Increase card.
Right.
The Storm Increase card indicates that the Storm token needs to move 1 space down on the Storm meter on the left side of the board. Now, there are symbols on that track. One type of symbol, or in the spaces themselves,
the meter itself.
The meter itself
In the circle.
has starts out blank, but eventually there are +1s, +2s, and +3s. And what that indicates is that when you hit that, that indicates that you have to draw more ration cards each turn.
Right.
So, for example, if you've been drawing 1 each turn and you move the Storm meter down to a space that says +1, not only in all future turns do you have to draw an additional card, but you have to do so right now on that turn. It indicates you need more rations because Storm is maybe moving the plane, and the rations may not be hitting their desired location.
Exactly.
So you need to draw more rations. And potentially have more bad things happen. If you move to a space on the Storm meter that has a storm cloud with lightning in the bottom and an upward arrow in the middle of that, what that indicates is that you have to add more of these to the deck.
Yeah.
You initially start at the beginning of the game with just 2 of these, but you can end up with as many as 5 by the end of the track.
It's a little brutal.
It's terrible, and the more you add of these, the more ration cards you're going to have to be drawing, the more the Storm meter moves down, and it's basically a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle. And it adds some real thematic stuff to the game, I feel like.
Oh, it does, because that could really happen.
Yeah, the weather being bad can really throw things for a loop. Right?
I've been in Europe in February, and the weather is terrible. So, in any case, if the Storm meter moves all the way to the bottom, it indicates that your planes are grounded. And unfortunately, even if the hunger track has not moved all the way to the bottom, it means basically game's over.
Because you can't deliver food anymore, right?
So try as best you can to avoid that.
Yeah, keep both of those tracks up at all times.
And what that does is motivate you to really be aggressive in delivering food to the appropriate places before the Storm meter causes time to run out.
Yep, exactly.
Now, one important thing, do not shuffle the ration card deck until you're completely done, exhausted it, and then reshuffle it.
All right, step 2 of the player's turn is that you get 4 possible actions that you can perform. Now, we're going to take a look at 3 of them right now. So the interesting thing is that when you're on a space at an airport is that you're at the airport, and in order to get off the airport, you have to take off. So you literally just move off the airport spot. You're still in the same zone in the region you're in, that same space, but you move off the airport and now you're available to fly, which is another action. And you can only fly to adjacent spots, and per spot that you move is an action point. And then again, when you move into a spot that has an airport, another action is landing. And landing is great because once you land at an airport, then you can get all the rations that you need and candy fill up into your cargo holds. Now, your player board has 6 cargo hold spots, but there is an upgrade option that gives you 4 more. So when you do upgrade, you have to be at an airport and you have to have 4 volunteers on your plane. You're going to drop them off at the airport and they will assist, at least I guess is the thematic part, upgrading your plane, and you'll get new spots in your cargo hold. What's important to note here too is that there are 2 levels of upgrades. On the initial one, you just get more spots on your cargo hold. And on level 2, it also gains an extra action per turn. So this is a valuable way to increase the capacity of your plane. And also when you land at an airport and fill up on rations, the extended or the upgraded cargo will autofill as well.
The 4th type of action you can take is dropping off. You can use a single action to drop off a single ration or a single box of candy.
Sadly, you can't just push everything out the door.
Unfortunately not.
Right?
But you can use multiple actions in the same area. You don't have to keep flying. You can use multiple actions while you're in the same area. In general, the players will be able to drop off the item only in the area in which their plane currently resides. But some players, because this game has variable player powers, some players have the ability to drop off rations or candy in neighboring or adjacent areas.
Right.
Now, there are quests, and we'll talk more about those in a second, but keep in mind that when you're in an area that is the target of your quest, you might have some special things you can do when dropping off candy or rations.
Yep.
The next action you can perform is picking up volunteers. Now, you don't have to land to pick up volunteers because I think they're very skilled.
Skyhook?
Yeah, exactly. Like grabbing a skyhook as you pass by. Remember that volunteers show up when rations have been consumed due to a ration card. But you can pick these volunteers up, and as Mark has mentioned, you can use them to help upgrade your plane. But volunteers come into your plane in the volunteer storage area where they can seat up to 6 volunteers, and we'll talk about a variety of things they can do in the build segment, which Mark will cover.
That's right. Next possible action is building. Now, building is really critical for a lot of reasons.
Oh, yeah.
So this is how you get more airports out into each of the zones. And again, just like when you upgrade your plane, you have to have 4 volunteers in order to build. So using 4 volunteers to build an airport, you pull them out of your plane and you drop an airport token on the space you're in. Now, you obviously cannot drop airport tokens in the West Germany. It's a square box on the board anyway, so it's not like the other zones. It's very clear definition. So you dropped it off where you're at, and then you have all the abilities of a normal airport. You can land and get supplies and so forth. Now, the other building, the really important building, I mean, airports are important, yes, but the really powerful building is the distribution center.
Right.
So building a distribution center, you cannot build a distribution center where an airport is, though. It has to be in an isolated space. And the great thing about these buildings is that when you go and drop off supplies, you can fly over a distribution spot, and then you can drop rations, not candy, into the adjacent spots.
Right. So think of it this way. You drop the box parachutes down at the distribution center, and they figure out a way either by truck or something like that to deliver it without an additional action to an adjacent area.
And that's the key. It doesn't take additional actions. You don't have to fly to another spot and drop off other things, right? So distribution centers are really powerful. Now, the thing that they can't help you with is if you have something specific, again, in a quest, you can't use the distribution center to send those rations to a quest spot.
Right. Now, for most of the regular areas on the board, you can fly to any adjacent area for just one action. Keep in mind, though, in terms of traffic flow, when you're flying into West Germany, you can only get there from the area of Spandau.
Right.
And when you're exiting, you have to either go south to go to Zehlendorf, or you have to fly out north to Rhein-Nickendorf.
Exactly. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, why am I doing all this stuff? So really, the game is that you are trying to fulfill quests in order to win. And for example, there's many things doing these quests. And again, as Randy said at the beginning in the setup, quest cards is part of the way you determine difficulty level of the game. In this example, we've got 8 of them laid out. It's one of the hardest paths that you can go, right? So a quest is simply this. So in this example, this quest says bring 4 people to West Germany. And there's some requirements around this that the card also outlines. And one of the things that you do is that you grab the quest token and you're going to place it where the card says to do so. Right. And it also says that you place the quest spot in West Germany. It costs 1 action to drop off all 4 people in the quest spot. You still receive the reward of lowering the hunger meter by 1 after you drop off all the people.
So that's a dual benefit. You complete the quest and you get the benefit that you would usually get even if West Germany wasn't part of the quest.
That's right. And these quests vary greatly.
Yeah.
You can be dropping off candy and it might cost you more to drop off candy.
Or less.
Or less, depending on the quest itself.
Right. One of them says that you place a quest marker in one area and then you spend 1 action to drop off 2 rations.
Right.
And you move the quest marker elsewhere and you spend another 1 action to drop off, I think, a ration and a candy.
Right, exactly.
But this is why we were talking about before that usually it takes 1 action to drop off either a ration or a candy, but sometimes the quest card modifies that.
Right. And that's why wherever the quest spot is laid out, the token, that's why you have to go there. You can't rely on a distribution center to help you out. So you have to actually be at that quest. And it really, like I said, it varies greatly. And the thing that I really like about these quest cards is that they all have a little bit of history at the top of the card. It's a really neat little thematic piece in the game. And you know, it's just flavor text, yes, but it really does add some interesting things to it.
Now, one of the things in this game that makes for some interesting choices and provides some replayability is the fact that the different characters you can play in this game actually have varying powers.
Yeah, which is great.
Yes, it is. So, for example, the plane engineer actually starts with first level of upgrade in his plane. So he has actually a capacity of
pretty slick, really,
4 more, and he can choose what he wants to put in those 4 additional
just
slots.
Like when you land, they autofill, but you get to pick what it is.
You get to pick what it is, but he starts off with a capacity of 10 instead of 6. One of the ones I really like is I think she's over there, the operations general. What that allows you to do is to refill one of the slots in your plane, your ration slots, for free each turn, and you can spend an action to generate another ration each turn. So maybe you have a garden up in your plane, or maybe you've actually got raw materials and you're making sandwiches and packing little care packages there. So in any case, the great thing about that is that there's a nice synergy with the distribution center. Your plane can hang out near a distribution center, and those additional rations can be dropped and spread to adjacent areas. So,
and the thing is that one of the characters is the candy bomber, like we learned in the intro here, and his power is that he just gets to drop off candy for free. It doesn't require an action, and again, that adds thematically to the game, right?
It does, and the benefit of that is too often if you're playing with. If you're really just under the gun and stressed, a lot of times you're focusing on dropping off rations, and what you don't get is the benefit of candy being dropped off. You don't get the benefit of the postcards by moving that track up.
Yeah.
So the candy bomber really helps you do that and get those additional benefits.
All right, so one of the things we didn't really talk about, there are postcards. And why do you care about this postcard track? Randy, why do you care?
Because once you've moved the postcard token all the way to the end of that track, you get to draw the top card off the postcard deck.
What does that do for us?
It gives you some awesome benefits. So let me give you some examples here. One of the postcards says, distribute. Build 1 distribution center anywhere on the board. So basically...
Huge.
Yes, it's huge. The minute you draw this card, you get to choose a spot and place a distribution center. Another one says, ration surge. Place 4 rations anywhere on the board. And this can be really critical, especially if you're preparing for one of those group ration cards where they consume 1 ration from each location. If you say, we just haven't been able to get to that corner of the area or corner of the region, and you say, France is totally exposed, or the French-controlled areas are totally exposed, so we'll put 2 there. So just in case we get that group ration card for France, we're covered.
We're covered, yeah.
Another one is upgrade one plane by one level.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
It's also really nice.
It's all benefits.
Yes, it's all great. Another one that says nobody consumes anything. It's like a day of rest card. This is the benefit of dropping candy in addition to rations when you have the opportunity.
It's really powerful. And again, dropping candy is how you move that track up, right?
Exactly.
Okay, folks, just a reminder again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been very prototype form, especially the cards. We don't have all the artwork yet on the cards. So keep an eye out for that as this campaign evolves. Also, we want to definitely put out some props because this is a very nice family weight game.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really liked about it is all the flavor text for the little history bits. I think that was really a nice touch.
Right, and we don't often see games involving war scenarios being kind of family games.
And this really is.
It is.
Yeah, and we've played it multiple times. So if this looks like a game that looks like something you might enjoy, I'm sure they would appreciate your support.
Definitely.
So I think that's it from us. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.